The gravel crunched as Bo eased the truck to a stop at the ranch gate. The porch light burned steady ahead, a lone sentinel in the dark. Neither of us moved. "You sure you don't want to stay the night?" His voice was low, rough. "Wouldn't mind keeping you close." I hesitated, my hand still caught in his. Naomi's expecting me. His jaw flexed like he wanted to argue. For a breath, I thought he would. Then the fight folded into something softer. "All right," he murmured, "but stay close, Ruth. Roads feel different tonight." He brought my hand to his mouth and kissed it, rough and reverent in the same breath. Heat broke through my ribs. For half a heartbeat, I wanted to lean in and erase the space between us. I didn't. If I crossed that line, there'd be no turning back. He walked me to my truck, steady at my side. At the last step, he lingered a second too long, like he meant to pull me back, then let me go. By the time I climbed behind the wheel, his shadow was already turning toward the house. Just like that, he was gone again. Night pressed close, hard and watchful. A skin of frost silvered the hood. Headlights swept in from the road, Mara's car. Chrome caught the light as she swung wide. The window cracked just enough for perfume to cut sharp through the cold. Even in the dim, her lipstick caught the light. Sharp. Red. Deliberate. She slowed to lock eyes with me, smiled, and rolled past, edging me out of the drive like I didn't belong. My chest knotted. For a heartbeat, I nearly turned back, stormed the porch, told her she couldn't have what she thought was hers. Bo's voice lingered. "Promise me you'll stay close, please." "Lord," I whispered into the wheel, knuckles white, "don't let me flinch, not now." I pressed the gas. By the time I hit the county road, the winter sun had folded behind the ridge early. Inside Naomi's, the air smelled of cinnamon and herbs, the kind of comfort that sneaks under your guard. "There you are," she said, relief softening her words as she stirred a pot. "We were about to send the dogs after you." Kenzie leaned against the counter, a pie tin in her hands. "Brought this from my mom. Said Naomi deserved something sweet for putting up with the two of us." Naomi swatted at her with the spoon, eyes glinting. "She's not wrong." Kenzie popped a crumb into her mouth. "And I was just telling Naomi, you need a night out." "A night out?" I echoed. "There's music at Jackson's. Pool tables, cold beer, a halfway decent band. Come with me." Naomi's gaze settled on me, quiet, firm. "Even the prodigal son found worse trouble in places like that," she said, voice steady. "The Lord still found him, but it near killed him first. If you go, Ruth, go with your eyes open." She turned the mug between her palms. "When I was your age, I thought courage meant swinging fists. Turns out it means staying when the Lord tells you to stay, and walking when he says move." Her words settled somewhere deep, heavy, and holy. I should have said no right then, but Kenzie's laugh cut through the weight like light through glass. The excuse rose easy. "It's been too much." But it felt thin. "Just one drink," Kenzie coaxed, tugging me forward. "You've been carrying the weight of the world. Breathe a little." Naomi's voice echoed inside me. "Joy is a mercy too. Maybe one night could be mine." "Fine," I heard myself say. "Just one." Kenzie's sedan rattled into the icy gravel lot, neon spilling blues and reds across the windshield. Our breath smoked as we hurried inside. The place smelled of beer and old wood, music thrumming under the chatter. Kenzie grabbed at drinks, soda for me, whiskey for her, and slid into the booth. "You know what's wild?" she said, chin propped on her hand. "I've known Bo Lawson my whole life, but I've never seen him look at a woman the way he looks at you." Heat climbed my neck. "Kenzie, I'm serious. Everyone sees it. You're the one, Ruth. Only question is, are you going to believe it?" I tried to laugh, eyes drifting toward the pool tables, and froze. Bo. He'd just straightened from a shot, the hitch in his side proof every movement still cost him. Even so, his gaze locked on me across the room, steady as a brand. Before I could think, he was crossing the floor. My pulse tripped when he leaned in, voice low and rough. "Didn't figure I'd find you here." Something reckless rose. Stronger than fear, stronger than guilt. Dance with me. His brow arched. Ruth, my ribs. One song. I caught his hand before I could change my mind. Just one. For a flicker, I saw fear behind his grin, like a man who already knew the music would end too soon. Then his fingers curled tight around mine, and he pulled me toward the floor. The band slid into a two-step. His hand found my waist, warm, steady. Mine settled on his shoulder. We moved careful at first, then easier. When he spun me in, denim brushed denim, and a laugh broke free. Bright, startled, the kind I thought I'd buried with Daniel. The bar blurred, the chatter dimmed. It wasn't a dance floor anymore. Just his hand steady at my waist, and the promise in his eyes that, for one song, I was his. He chuckled, low, breath skimming my hair. Didn't figure you'd call me out like that. Guess you don't know me as well as you think. Pain shadowed his eyes when his ribs pulled tight beneath my palm. But he didn't let go. When the song slipped into another, I eased back. His hand lingered, anchoring. Call me when you get home safe. Promise? His voice was meant for me alone. I promise. I breathed. He let go slowly, like it cost him, and turned away, jaw tight, shoulders squared, as if even walking off hurt. Daniel never had to ask for promises like this. His world hadn't carried knives in the dark or brothers who bled family for land. With Bo, every vow felt heavier, born in blood, forged in fire. And still, my heart answered yes before my lips could catch up. The music bled through the walls as I stepped out for air. Neon spilled over the frost-laced gravel, catching the edge of my boots. The night was thick with smoke and cheap beer, the kind that clings to everything it touches. I followed the side porch lights, meaning to clear my head, and found the back steps slick with frost. A few loose boards creaked underfoot, the noise inside dulled to a low hum. Then, voices. Not from the alley, from above me, out on the deck, too close, too low. I froze, crouched, barely breathing. Mo says Lawson's digging too deep again. If he don't quit, we'll make him. A second man grunted agreement. Should have handled it at the depot. Man's harder to kill than he looks. Ice crawled under my skin. Then, a woman. Smooth, controlled, a little impatient, and familiar enough to twist something sharp behind my ribs. That's not what I signed on for, she whispered. I'm here to work. That's it. One of the men scoffed. Too late for that. You took Blackthorn money. You're in it, sweetheart. She exhaled, annoyed, not afraid. Lawson ain't your problem. He is if he keeps blocking us from the widow, the first man snapped. Mo wants her dealt with. Anybody standing with her burns with her. Metal clicked. Lighter, knife, I couldn't tell. The woman's perfume drifted through the cracks. Sweet, sharp, expensive. Mara wore something like that, but so did half the women in Stonehaven. My pulse hammered. The woman muttered one last thing. Quiet, clipped, resentful. Just keep my name out of it. A boot scuffed as if someone turned toward her. Girl, your name's already in it. Footsteps crossed overhead. A door opened, closed. Silence seeped through the boards. I stayed crouched until the cold bit through my jeans. My hands shook as I pressed them to the icy wood. Perfume, heels, a smooth voice with too much confidence. It could have been Mara, or someone who only sounded like her. I didn't know. And somehow that made it worse. One thing, though, I knew with bone-deep certainty. If Bo kept standing beside me, they meant to take him out. And if they couldn't get to him easily, they'd come for me instead. I slipped back inside, the music too bright, the laughter too loud. Kenzie clocked me the second I slid into the booth. Ruth, you all right? Fine, I lied. But I wasn't. The sound of that woman's laugh still clung to me, heavy as smoke. If what I heard was true, then the wreck wasn't random. It was a warning. Beau deserved to know. Tell him now and he'd march straight into Cole's fire, half-healed and bleeding. The sheriff? He'd wave it off as rumor until it was too late. Number. If I wanted Beau safe, I had to end this another way. Lord, I whispered so Kenzie couldn't hear. If I'm wrong, stop me. If I'm right, show me what I need to find. Kenzie looped her arm through mine, tugging me toward the door. Come on, let's get you home. The ride back was quiet, the windshield haloed with fine frost around the wipers. My reflection stared from the window. Pale, tired, rimmed red, hard to recognize. At Naomi's, the porch light glowed warm against the cold. Waiting. Inside, she sat at the table, Bible open, glasses low on her nose. She studied me a long moment. Fear's a heavy thing, Ruth, but the Lord never asked us to carry it alone. He promised to hold us steady when we can't stand. The words cut sharper than I wanted. I needed to believe her. Fear clung tighter than faith. In my room, I shut the door and leaned against it, palms flat to the wood. That laugh still rang in my ears, cold enough to burn. I was almost sure it was Mara's. Almost. Doubt curled like smoke, making every shadow a trap. Kenzie's words pushed back. You're not his curse. You're his anchor. I crawled into bed, quilt to my chin. The heater ticked. A draft worried the window. Naomi's footsteps passed once outside my door. Steady, sure. She didn't knock. She didn't push. For that, I was grateful. If she did, I'd break. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. One message. Beau. Made it home? My throat tightened. Me. Yes. Safe. 3 dots blinked. Then, Beau. Good. Don't make me wait too long for the next dance. Tears burned as I pressed the phone to my chest. For the first time all night, the fear loosened. Just a fraction. Still, beyond the window, the dark carried a fresh bite of gasoline and cold smoke. And I knew, deep in my chest, the fire wasn't finished. The house felt heavier than it had any right to, like even the walls knew I'd sent him away. Naomi hummed while shelling beans at the table, but the sound couldn't soften the ache lodged in my chest. Every time I blinked, I was back outside Jackson's. The silhouette pressed close to one of Cole's men. Perfume heavy in the cold air. I couldn't see her face clearly, but the laugh, the bracelet catching neon light. It could have been Mara. And the words, anyone standing with Harper burns with her. I scrubbed harder at the pot in the sink, as if I could scour the memory away. You've been quiet all day, Ruth, Naomi said gently. I'm fine. The lie was bitter on my tongue. I wasn't fine. I hadn't been since Daniel. Some mornings I still woke, reaching across cold sheets, half believing he'd be there. And now, with Beau, even the thought of wanting someone else felt like betrayal. The knock came, low and steady. When I opened the door, he was there with a small bundle, dried wildflower stems and cedar sprigs wrapped in twine. Hat tipped low, shoulders tense, like he'd almost turned back twice before knocking. Didn't mean to bother, he said. Just wanted a reason to see you. We ended up on the porch steps. Frost feathered the railing. My breath shook. Your message said you were fine, he said softly. Didn't believe you. I swallowed hard. He took a slow breath. I thought maybe we'd drive out to the ridge. Just you and me. No noise, no shadows. I backed away before I could stop myself. Beau stilled. Ruth, we can't do this, I whispered. His face changed. Not anger, just hurt. Can't do what? This. My voice cracked. You, me, whatever this is. He took a small step toward me like he could close the hurt with distance. Ruth, don't do this. It's too dangerous, I choked out. Being close to me, being near me. I can't. My throat closed. I can't keep putting you in the path of things meant for me. His brows drew tight, disbelief giving way to something deeper. Too dangerous? Now? His voice softened but carried an edge of grief. Why now, Ruth? Why now? Not after the wreck? Not after that night you told me you loved me? Why is it suddenly too much? I swallowed hard. Because last night out back at Jackson's, I heard people talking. His breath stilled. They said the wreck wasn't an accident, I whispered. They said anyone standing with me burns with me. That if you don't back off, they'll keep coming. And you... My voice cracked. You've already taken too many hits because of me, Bo. The fire, the stabbing, the wreck. Every time danger shows up, you step between me and it without thinking. And they know that. They're using it. His jaw flexed, heartbreak cutting through every line of his face. Ruth, he said quietly, I stepped in front of that knife because I love you. Because I'm crazy about you. Because protecting you didn't feel like a choice. Tears blurred my vision. And that's exactly why I have to let you go. His breath left him like I'd knocked the wind clean out of his ribs. For a long moment he just stared at me, snow catching in his lashes, his chest rising like each inhale cost blood. Then he shook his head once, slow, as if he couldn't believe the ground had opened beneath him again. You think letting me go keeps me alive? His voice was barely a whisper, raw, cracked, fighting for steadiness. Ruth, sweetheart, death ain't what scares me. My throat tightened. But he stepped back like he needed space just to breathe, one hand gripping the railing to stay upright. I faced fire once, he murmured, eyes glistening. Faced that knife, faced that truck coming at me full tilt. You think I did all that 'cause I got a death wish? His voice broke, rough and reverent and wrecked. I did it 'cause it was you in the middle of it. My chest cracked open. He swallowed hard, fighting tears. Darlin', I'd die 1,000 times over if it meant you walked away with breath in your lungs. That ain't me being reckless. That's just the truth of what you are to me. A tear slid warm down my cheek. He caught it with his thumb, gentle, devastated, then let his hand fall like it burned. But you letting me go? His jaw trembled. That's the first thing that's ever felt like dying slow. My knees nearly buckled, he whispered, voice cracking in the cold. I don't care what they promised out back at Jackson's. Let 'em come. Let 'em try. I'd stand between you and hell itself if it gave you one more sunrise. Please. He shook his head sharply. No. You think you're protecting me? You're breaking me. There's a difference. He stepped toward me, then stopped, like getting any closer might finish what little was left of him. I don't want a life you ain't in, he said, voice barely holding. But if pushing me away is the price for you breathing easy, I'll pay it. My breath shattered. He wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, like he needed something to do or he'd fall apart right there on the steps. Then quieter, so quiet I almost missed it. Just tell me one thing, Ruth. Tell me you don't love me anymore. Lie if you have to. Give me something I can hold on to so I can walk off this porch without dropping to my knees. My lips trembled. Bo, I can't say that. His whole body flinched, like the truth hurt more than any blade. Then this is gonna ruin me, he whispered. He stepped back. Then another, snow catching in his hair like ash. When he finally forced himself to turn away, his voice carried one last time, rough, breaking, reverent. I love you, Ruth Harper. I'll love you till the Lord calls me home, and if loving you is the thing that gets me killed. He swallowed, tears falling freely now. Then at least I'll die knowing I chose something worth leaving this world for. He walked to his truck, didn't look back, didn't slow, didn't breathe, Not really, until the door slammed shut like a gunshot. When his taillights disappeared beyond the fence line, the porch shook beneath my feet, not from the cold, but from the way my heart split clean in two. Behind me, Naomi whispered through the crack of the door, "Child, what have you done?" And I collapsed into her arms, sobbing like something holy and terrible had just been ripped straight from my chest. The sound of his engine faded down the gravel road until it was nothing but cold wind and my own heartbeat falling apart in my chest. I shut the door, leaned my back into it, slid down until my knees hit the rug. My whole body trembled. Naomi didn't rush in, not at first. She watched me for a long moment, reading the wreckage on my face, like scripture she already knew by heart. Then she lowered herself beside me, slow, careful, her knees cracking as she sat on the floor, shoulder to shoulder with me. I didn't try to speak. Couldn't. She didn't ask. She just laid her hand over mine, warm and steady. Finally, I choked. I told him to go, so he might live. Naomi kept her gaze on the dark window, voice soft as breath. "Sometimes love looks like closing a door," she murmured. "Doesn't mean the Lord's left you on the stoop." My throat tightened. "Feels like it." She squeezed my hand gently. "He is near to the broken-hearted," she whispered, "and saves those crushed in spirit." The same words she'd spoken once when I thought grief would swallow me whole. The same truth I'd forgotten until this moment. Her voice steadied something deep inside me, even as my hands wouldn't stop shaking. "You did what you thought would save him," she said. "That kind of pain don't come from selfishness, Ruth. It comes from love trying its best to protect what little it's got left." Tears burned hot down my cheeks. "I told him it was too dangerous," I whispered. "But losing him this way, Naomi, it hurts worse than the danger." She leaned her head gently against mine. "Pain still has its say," she murmured, "but it doesn't get the final word." I broke then, silent, shaking sobs I couldn't hold back any longer. Naomi wrapped her arms around me and held on. "Lord," she prayed quietly over my hair, "steady her steps, steady his, and don't let this be the end of what you've begun." I closed my eyes. The ache didn't ease, but it settled under something steadier. Grief holding me, faith holding me, God holding me. Bo wasn't here anymore. And whatever was coming didn't care that I'd sent him away. Didn't care why. If they were coming for me, and I could feel it now, like a tremor under the floorboards, I'd have to find a way to stand on my own 2 feet, with or without Bo, ready or not. Monday came cold and gray, the kind of day that made even breath feel borrowed. Bo and I worked opposite sides of the barn, saying only what needed saying. Feed weights, broken latch, forecast. Each word felt like it scraped on the way out. By mid-morning, he caught my wrist before I could pass him. "Ruth." His voice was quiet, rough from too much silence. I turned, pulse jumping. "It doesn't have to be like this," he said. "Whatever it is you're protecting me from, I can handle it." I shook my head, forcing my voice steady. "You don't understand. They're not just coming for me, Bo. You stand next to me, and you paint a target on your back, too." His jaw flexed, eyes bright in the cold. "That's my choice to make," he said, low, sharp. Then the restraint snapped. "I'm a grown man, Ruth. I don't need you deciding what kind of risk I can stomach. You don't get to choose for me anymore." The words cut, not out of cruelty, but pride born from already losing too much. He stepped closer, frost crunching between us. "You think pushing me off keeps me safe? All it does is make sure we both freeze alone in the dark." Something inside me cracked. Every word he said I wanted to believe. But I couldn't. Not when every shadow still felt like a threat aimed at him. I forced myself to meet his eyes. Better cold than buried. He stared at me a long moment, hurt plain, quiet, raw, human. Then he looked away. Fine, he said roughly. Have it your way. He turned to the workbench, shoulder squared, shutting down whatever might have been left to say. By Friday, we were ghosts haunting the same yard. I fed, he fixed fence. At supper, he left early. Claiming chores at dusk, I stayed late to sweep the feed room. Anything to avoid the quiet house waiting for me. By the time I climbed into Daniel's old truck, dusk was bruising the sky, purple against the ridge. Headlights cut through fog. At the last curve before the drive, something flashed fast across the dark. A black truck, lifted, loud pipes. A blackthorn decal slapped across the tailgate. It tore past me, kicking gravel hard enough to ping my windshield before disappearing into the trees. A sick feeling crawled up my spine. I rounded the bend and froze. Smoke. A thin column rising from Beau's far barn. No, I breathed, flooring the gas and cutting across the pasture. I turned into the drive, gravel spitting under the tires. Smoke billowed from the equipment barn. And Beau was there, alone, shirt half soaked from the water trough, dragging a smoldering tarp out of the doorway, coughing hard. Beau! I jumped from the truck. Beau, what happened? He whipped toward me, eyes sharp through the haze. Stay back! The command hit like a slap, but the flames kicked up along the rafters again. I didn't think. I ran. He cursed, soft, furious, terrified, just as I grabbed the hose on the side wall and dragged it toward the barn. The water sputtered, then roared. I planted my feet and aimed for the highest flames. Beau surged forward to help, teeth clenched, both of us breathing smoke and steam. We drenched the rafters until the last of the fire hissed out. When the haze thinned, he straightened slowly, chest rising in ragged pulls. You okay? I asked, breath shaking. Fine. Too fast. Too flat. Beau, Ruth. He didn't shout, didn't even look at me fully, just said my name like it cost him blood. You should go. My stomach dropped. I'm not leaving if you're hurt. I said I'm fine. He wiped soot from his forehead. Go home. Naomi will be waiting on you. I swallowed. I think someone was here before it started. I saw someone running toward the tree line. His jaw ticked, just once. Like maybe he'd seen something too, but didn't have room left in his voice to say it. Instead of worry, a bitter little laugh slipped out, quiet and sharp. Of course you did. He shook his head once. Funny thing, Ruth. Everywhere you go, fire seems to follow. He winced the second it left his mouth, but didn't take it back. But that's not fair, I whispered. Maybe not, he rasped, but it's the truth I got right now. He turned away, grabbing a rake, moving debris like he needed something, anything, to keep from reaching for me. Go on home, he said again. Long night ahead. I stood frozen. The man who once ran into fire for me couldn't look at me now. Finally, I backed away, climbed into the truck, shut the door. Somewhere behind me, a rake hit the ground. Hard. Like maybe I wasn't the only one coming apart. I drove home with tears slipping hot down my cheeks. Naomi's light glowed in the hall, her quiet way of saying she cared. I slipped into bed, smelling of smoke I couldn't wash off. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that barn burning. Saw Beau inside it. Saw the flames throwing his shadow along the same way they once threw Daniel's. My chest cinched tight. My breath went thin. No, no. I sat up hard. The room tilted. My heart hammered against my ribs. Too fast, too hard. Like drowning standing up. I fumbled for my phone, hands shaking, and typed the only name I wanted. Me. Are you awake? A beat. Then, Beau. Yeah. Tears blurred the screen. Me. I can't breathe. I keep seeing the fire. Are you okay? Long pause. Then, Beau. I'm fine. A sob escaped me. I shouldn't have typed what I typed next. Me. Beau. Can you come? Just till I fall asleep, please. 3 dots blinked, stopped, came back, stopped again. Finally, Bo, Ruth, I can't. My breath cracked. Another message. Bo, I'm sorry. And somehow that hurt worse than silence. I pressed the phone to my chest, shaking. I almost texted again, almost begged. Instead, I curled into myself and whispered through tears, Lord, I don't know how to do this alone. Stay with me through the night. The room didn't get easier, but the tightness eased, just enough to breathe. When sleep finally dragged me under, the phone still glowed faintly with his last words. I'm sorry. And that wrecked me more than fire ever could. The knock came the next morning, just after sunrise. A man stood on the porch in a county-issued coat, breath fogging in the cold. He carried a clipboard and an envelope thick with folded papers. Sorry to bother, he said. Looking for Mrs. Lawson. We've been trying to reach you all for a few months. Letters kept coming back from the Harper address. Naomi wiped her hands on her apron and stepped forward. What's this about? Loan servicing, he said, uneasy, like he wished someone else had drawn this job. Harper Ranch fell behind back in April. Mr. Lawson said he had a plan, said he was working to make it right, but payments never came through. Bank can't hold any longer. He handed me the envelope. Final notice glared red through the paper. I'm real sorry, he said, hat in his hands. I lost my own place once. I know how it feels. Then he left. His engine faded down the road, leaving only winter wind. Naomi came beside me, apron dusted with flour. What's it say? I swallowed. It's bad. Months past due. Daniel must have been trying to handle it before everything happened. Her mouth tightened. He always did try to shoulder the world on his own. Silence settled, cold, heavy. Then Naomi looked at me, really looked, and her face softened. Ruth, she said quietly, you didn't sleep last night. Your hands are shaken. Tell me what else happened. The whole truth surged up, sharp in my throat. I sank into the nearest chair. There was a fire, I whispered. At Bo's. Naomi's hand flew to her mouth. Oh, child. He tried to keep me back, I said, voice breaking. But I saw it, the flames, and someone ran from the barn, and a blackthorn truck passed me on the road right before. Naomi pulled up a chair beside me. Was he hurt? He said no. My voice trembled. But he was there alone, Naomi. Again. And when I told him what I saw, he couldn't even look at me. He just told me to go. Her eyes filled with something quiet and knowing. Not judgment, recognition. Fire follows pain, she murmured. And pain follows secrets. Whatever Daniel left tangled behind him. You're breathing in the smoke now, Ruth. Whether you choose it or not. Tears slipped hot down my cheeks. I keep trying to keep Bo safe. But danger keeps finding him anyway. And last night, when I saw that fire, Naomi, I can't go through that again. Not with him. Naomi reached for my hand, warm, steady. You can't outrun grief, she said softly. And you can't outsmart sin. But you can face it. You can stop letting fear decide who you're allowed to love. The words cracked something open inside me. What do I even do now? I whispered. You take it to the only place Daniel can still hear you, she said gently. Lay down the guilt that's been strangling you since the fire, and then you go face the living, not the ghosts. Something steadied in me. Not peace, but direction. Resolve. I looked out toward the frost-tipped pasture. Bo's ranch sat quiet beyond the trees, like a question I'd been too scared to answer. I can't keep running, I whispered. No, Naomi agreed softly. But you don't have to walk blind either. Let the Lord meet you where you're weak. I wiped my face, stood, and reached for my coat. Where you going, child? She asked. To the cemetery, I said. I've got something to tell Daniel. Then I've got something to put right. Naomi nodded once, firm, proud, a little sad. Go on, she murmured. Let the truth start doing its work. The cemetery sat quiet under a pale winter sun, frost clinging to the grass, like it was trying to hold on to something that wasn't there. I stood where I always had, boots sinking into cold earth, pockets full of hands that didn't know where to go. The headstone looked smaller somehow, or maybe I'd just been carrying too much weight to notice before. Hey, I whispered. It's been a while. Silence settled soft around me, like the world paused long enough to listen. I keep trying to figure out where it all went wrong, I said. You were so sure you could fix everything. The ranch, the bills, whatever you got caught up in. My throat burned, and I tried to believe you. I really did. A breath. Cold, unsteady, nothing like the heat that still clung to my lungs from last night's flames. I need to say something honest, I murmured. You always said the truth was the only thing that could hold a marriage together. My eyes blurred. I loved you. I'll always love the part of you that was kind and steady and mine. But I've been holding on to something that died with you, and it's kept me from living the life I still have. Wind brushed across my cheek, soft as a hand. I thought staying away from Beau would keep him safe, I whispered. But last night, he was the one inside that fire. Someone lit it. Someone who doesn't care who he burns to get to me. My voice shook, and for the first time since you died, I realized something that scares me more than losing him. I swallowed. I realized I want to live. Not half alive, not frozen in grief. I want to stop punishing myself for still breathing when you're not. A tear slipped warm down my cheek. So I need you to hear this, I whispered. I'm not leaving you behind. I'm just stepping forward because I think you'd tell me it's time. I knelt and brushed frost from the stone. I'm going to fight for the truth, I said. For whatever you got tangled in. For whatever's coming next. And I'm done running. From danger, from Beau, from the pain. My voice cracked. And if any part of you can hear me, I hope you'd be proud I'm trying to live again. The cold pressed in, honest and clean. I miss you, I whispered. But I can't stay frozen, not anymore. A breath, a tremble, a letting go. I stood, wiped my cheeks, and turned toward the truck. And for the first time since he died, walking away didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like permission. I'd spent the better part of the morning trying to find the right words. Not for prayer this time, for Beau. The house felt different after yesterday. Lighter, somehow. Naomi hummed in the kitchen, and even the wind outside sounded softer, thin, like something had finally exhaled. I'd said what needed saying at Daniel's grave. Now I just had to live with the peace I'd asked for, and figure out how to tell Beau I was ready to stop running from it. The coffee burned anyway. I'd been too busy rehearsing conversations in my head, some brave, some clumsy, to notice. By the time I gave up and set the cup down, the words still wouldn't come out right. That's when Kenzie showed up. She didn't knock, just swung the door open like she owned the place, 2 coffees in hand, and trouble in her eyes. Lord, you've got that look, she said, handing me a cup. What look? The one women get before they do something honest and probably stupid. I laughed under my breath. Depends on who you ask. Beau, I'm guessing. Maybe. She grinned, wide and knowing. Then put on your boots. We're going to town. I frowned. Why town? Because, she said, already jingling her keys, if you plan to talk to Beau, you can't do it on an empty stomach. Let's get some food in you. Might help with the nerves. I laughed again. You think food's gonna fix nerves like these? Maybe not, she said. But it's a start. And if nothing else, you'll at least have something good to taste while you panic. I shook my head, smiling despite myself. You're impossible. Maybe, Kenzie said. But I'm right. I didn't argue. My heart had already left the house hours ago. Main Street sat under a thin winter sun, the light flat and pale. Our breath fogged as we crossed the salted curb, tires hissed over slush, and exhaust hung in the cold like ghosts. We parked by the feed store and walked toward the square. Kenzie talked about nothing. Recipes, church gossip, the cold that refused to lift. I let her. The noise filled the cracks my grief left behind. We were just passing the bar when the door swung open and Mara stepped out. Tight jeans, red lipstick, and that mean kind of pretty that comes from knowing too much. A knife of cold air slid from the doorway behind her. "Well, look who's still playing cowgirl," she said, voice sweet as cheap syrup. "Didn't think Lawson would keep you around this long. Guess he likes projects." My jaw tightened. "You keeping tabs on me now?" She took a drag, breath ghosting white around the smoke, eyes glittering. "Just calling it how I see it. You're not as close to Beau as you used to be, are you? Maybe he finally figured out widows don't make good replacements." Kenzie's hand twitched at her side. "Mara, it was... oh..." But Mara kept going. "Don't take it personal, sugar. Beau's a good man. He'll pick you up, dust you off, and then remember he's already buried enough trouble for one lifetime." The words hit hard enough to draw heat to my face. "Funny. You spend an awful lot of time with Blackthorn boys for somebody who calls other people trouble." Her smile faltered. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" I said quietly. "You were laughing with them behind the co-op last week." Her chin lifted, smoke curling from her mouth. "Maybe I just like a man who buys his own drinks." "Or maybe you like not being alone." That landed. Her expression cracked for a heartbeat, hurt flashing through the hard edges. Then she flicked her cigarette into a ridge of dirty snow. "Careful, Harper. You keep running that mouth, and folks will quit feeling sorry for you." Kenzie stepped between us. "Let's go." I let her pull me away, my pulse still thudding in my ears. We walked fast, laughter and country radio fading behind us into winter hush. Then, another sound. Low, rough, close, the thud of a body hitting brick. Kenzie stopped dead, eyes wide. "Don't look," she whispered, but I already had. Down the narrow alley, where daylight never lasted long, 3 men circled someone on the ground. The glint of a badge caught the gray. "Should have kept your nose out of my yard, Sheriff," Cole said, voice low, measured. "You and your boys keep digging where you don't belong." Sheriff Avery spat blood, breath misting. "You think hiding poison barrels makes you clever? You're a coward, same as your daddy." Cole's jaw tightened. He crouched low, hands on his knees until they were eye to eye. "You ever stop to think maybe you're stirring up something bigger than both of us?" His tone wasn't a shout. It was a warning. "You think I sleep at night after what happened out at Harper's place? You think I don't see his face every time I close my eyes? But if you keep dragging this mess into daylight, more folks are going to get hurt. Let what's done stay buried, Sheriff. You won't recover if it comes up again." Avery's breath hitched. "That a threat?" Cole's mouth curved. Not a smile, not quite. "Call it advice. You want peace? Stop digging. Some fires were meant to die out." He straightened, brushing dust from his coat. "We're done here." Then he turned, flicked a cigarette into the slush, and walked away. The men followed, engines roaring to life, before the alley emptied into silence again. Kenzie's hand caught my arm. "Ruth, come on. We need to go." But I couldn't move. My pulse hammered so loud it drowned the wind. The sheriff was still breathing, barely, blood bright against the snow. "We'll get help once we're clear," Kenzie hissed, tugging harder. "If they see us..." That broke through. I tore my gaze away from the alley and let her pull me toward the street. My boot slipped once on the ice, breath catching in my throat, but I didn't stop. Cole's voice followed me all the way to the truck. "You think I sleep at night after what happened out at Harper's? You think I don't see his face every time I close my eyes? Let what's done stay buried." The words burned colder than the air. By the time we hit the main road, I wasn't thinking about fear anymore. I was thinking about Daniel and how Beau deserved to know the truth. It wasn't an accident, it was him. We didn't run so much as come apart in the cold. Kenzie pulling me one way, the memory of Cole's words pulling me the other. The ride home blurred, salt popping under her tires, heater rattling, night air cutting thin in my lungs. Kenzie's hands shook on the wheel as she ended the call to 911. "They'll get to him," she said. "They have to." Naomi's porch light glowed through the bare trees like a watchful eye. Kenzie idled at the steps. "You want me to come in?" I shook my head. "No, go on home." "You sure?" "Yeah." My hand found the door handle tight. "Thank you." She studied me, then nodded once. "I'll be a call away." Her taillights shrank into the dark. Chung. Inside, the house held its breath. Naomi's lamp off, kettle quiet. The only sound was the soft tick of the mantel clock and the furnace kicking on. Settling again. I sat at the kitchen table and let my thoughts settle like dust. Every trail led the same direction. The barrels, the fire, the poison. It all came back to Cole. And if Beau didn't know before, he would now. My pulse thudded hard enough to shake the table. I pressed my palms to the wood and bowed my head. Lord, if this truth costs me peace, give me courage instead. And if loving him's the risk I've got to take, then I take it. Outside, the wind shifted, carrying wood smoke and something colder beneath it. Hard to tell the difference anymore. By the time the mantel clock stuttered past 10, stillness felt like surrender. The porch light at Lawson Ranch burned steady through the trees, a stubborn star I couldn't ignore, throwing a thin glow across the yard that caught the snow like ash. Beau opened the door before I could knock. His eyes went straight to mine, haunted, hollow, tired. "Ruth," he said, voice rough, "you shouldn't be here." "Maybe not," I said softly, "but I'm done running. From you. From all of it." He didn't move, didn't blink, just let the quiet stretch until it hurt. Finally, "You pushed me away." "I know," I whispered, "and I hate that I did." His jaw flexed, the muscle ticking hard. "You think that didn't tear something open? You said it was to keep me safe, but all it did was break me clean in half." My breath hitched. "Beau, I'm hurting, Ruth." Low, steady, a truth dragged raw from bone. "I haven't stopped thinking about you since the day you sent me away. I get up, mend fences, fix gates, work till dark, and still, every night, it's you I see standing on that porch telling me goodbye." He swallowed, voice graveling. "I ain't strong enough to lose you twice. I can't bury someone else I love and just keep mending fences like nothing snapped." My eyes burned hot. "I'm so sorry it took me this long to find my way back." He shook his head sharply. "You don't get to just walk back in like nothing broke." "I know," I said, barely breathing. "I know I broke something in you," I whispered, "but I'm here now." His gaze flicked to mine, wounded, unsure, searching. And then, the line that cracked everything open. Beau's voice dropped to a low, wounded rasp. "Why now, Ruth? Why come back now?" The world seemed to still. I swallowed hard, the truth finally rising, simple and devastating. "Because I love you, Beau." His breath caught. I kept going, the words trembling out. "The night your barn caught fire, I thought I was going to lose you, and it hit me all at once. Being away from you doesn't keep you safe. It just keeps me miserable." A tear slid warm down my face. "I pushed you away thinking it'd protect you, but all it did was carve out the one good thing I had left. Beau, loving you isn't the danger. Losing you is." I stepped closer, voice barely steady. "I came back because my heart never left. Because I can't keep pretending I don't love you." Not when the only thing that scared me more than the danger was living without you. Silence shook between us. Not empty, but full. Bo's throat worked, emotion tightening his voice. I don't know if I can just jump all the way back in, he whispered. You hurt me, Ruth. I know, I said softly, and I'm not asking you to fall all at once. I drew a shaky breath. Just don't shut me out. Let me stand where my heart already is, with you. Bo didn't move at first. His jaw flexed, his fingers curling once against his thigh, like he was fighting the instinct to reach for me. When he finally spoke, his voice was low and rough. I'm not promising more than I've got, Ruth. That's enough, I whispered. A long beat. Then he nodded, small, guarded, but real, and stepped back from the doorway. Come inside, he said quietly. Not forgiveness, not surrender, just a man still hurting, who wouldn't let her stand in the cold. He walked ahead of me, each step slow and careful, his hands skimming the wall for balance. The floorboards creaked under our boots as I followed. At the last door, he paused and pushed it open with his shoulder. Bed's yours tonight, he said gruffly. Sheets are clean. I'll take the couch. I started to protest, but his eyes cut sharp, the kind that ended arguments before they started. So I only nodded, murmured, "Thank you." He lingered in the doorway, one hand braced on the frame. Door stays locked, he said. Rifles by the couch. I'll keep watch. He didn't have to promise. I already knew he'd be close. The kind of close that didn't need words. The sky cracked open the minute he shut the door. Not thunder, but winter coming hard. Sleet needled the windows. The wind worked at the siding with a long, low moan. The room smelled faintly of cedar and soap. Plain but neat. I slipped beneath the quilt and stared at the ceiling. Every creak of the house pressed in louder than it should have. Shadows stretched long in the corners. I told myself it was just weather. But when ice rattled the panes and the furnace coughed, my chest tightened. The memory of fire roared back too quick. Daniel's barn, the screams, the smoke. My throat locked. Before I could think better of it, I slipped from the bed, quilt clutched tight, and padded down the hall barefoot. The couch creaked under Bo's weight when I stopped at the doorway. His eyes were already open, winter light ghosting the room. He didn't sit up, just lifted the quilt with one hand, voice low and rough. Come here. I hesitated, heart pounding like I was stepping into sin instead of mercy. But the fear was louder than the shame, and I slid under the blanket. The couch dipped. His arm came around me without question, solid and steady, tucking me into the curve of his chest. Not an invitation back into his heart, just into the circle of his arm where the storm couldn't reach. The sleet still needled the glass, but it dulled beneath the sound of his heartbeat. Slow, sure, anchoring. My breath hitched once, then steadied against him. You're safe, he murmured into my hair. His voice was thick with sleep, but the words carried iron. I've got you. I thought of the barn, the way his blood had slicked my hands, the way Cole's shadow had filled the doorway. Now, with Bo's arm around me, that darkness finally felt like it had somewhere to go. His lips brushed close, so close I thought he might kiss my hair. But he stopped just shy, breath warm against me, like even that near touch was more than he meant to allow. Tears burned hot at the back of my eyes. I didn't answer, only let myself sink into him, his warmth bleeding through, until I couldn't tell where mine ended and his began. The storm rattled on, but his hand smoothed down my arm once, slow and gentle, and the world finally stilled. By the time sleep pulled me under, I wasn't dreaming of fire or loss. I was dreaming of the way his arms stayed tight around me, like he'd never let go. And when dawn broke gray and quiet, I woke still in his arms, Safe, held, wanted. But even wrapped in him, I couldn't shake the truth. We were safe for a night, not for always.
Cole was still out there circling.
But so was the Lord. And the next time fire came, we wouldn't be standing alone. I woke at sunrise, the house still wrapped in the hush that comes after a hard storm. Beau hadn't moved, one arm slung over his chest, breath even, the faintest crease between his brows. For a moment I just watched him, the quiet of it all, settling deeper than sleep ever could. Then I eased up, careful not to wake him, left a note on the counter, back in 10, and went to the kitchen. By the time the coffee finished, dawn had begun to lift. It was Sunday, and the world looked like it was still deciding whether to wake. I sat on Beau's porch with a mug gone cold, listening to the last of the storm drip from the eaves. The ridge lay still. The lamp inside burned low, steady as a promise he'd kept through the night. My breath fogged in the air and drifted away. Movement snagged the corner of my eye. A figure was climbing the muddy track towards the far cabin, the one halfway up the ridge where Cole used to fix things when he still believed they could hold. Even from here, I could see her coat was too fine for this place, her boots slipping on thawing ground, the way she kept glancing over her shoulder like the morning might change its mind and send her back. She knocked once, then again, harder. When the door didn't open, she pressed her forehead against it, shoulders shaking. I set the mug down, pulled my coat tight, and climbed the hill. Half-frozen mud cracked under my boots, the air sharp enough to sting my lungs. By the time I reached the porch, she hadn't moved. "Ma'am?" I asked softly. "You need help?" She turned, startled, one hand flying to her chest. Up close, she looked too city for this road. Nice coat, good boots, hair pinned in a clean knot she hadn't had time to smooth after the wind. Her eyes, though, those belonged to the ridge, wary, determined, tired. "I didn't mean to wake anyone," she said, voice catching on the cold. "You didn't," I told her. "He's not here." Her mouth pressed tight, like that answer hurt and she'd expected it to. He never is when I need him. "You looking for Cole?" She hesitated, then said, "Sarah?" "Sarah Whitmore." The name landed heavy, like something the ridge itself remembered. "Door's locked," she murmured, eyes running over the sagging rail and empty coffee can where Tools used to live. "He used to keep this place straight. Now look at it." "You came a ways," I said. "Why?" She met my gaze, the honesty in her voice cutting clean. "Stonehaven. Trucks moving at odd hours. Men who don't knock twice. There's talk of something worse coming. I thought if I could get to him first, maybe I could stop him from stepping off the cliff." "You think he'll let you?" A faint, tired laugh. "No, but sometimes you show up anyway." A cry drifted from the road below, soft, insistent. Sarah's head turned fast. We followed the sound down the slope to a dented blue sedan, half hidden in the scrub. The engine idled low, heater humming. A sunflower blanket covered the car seat and back. Something small stirred beneath it. Frustrated, alive. Sarah opened the door, her voice gentling like she'd turned a key. "I know, sweetheart. We're leaving." The fussing eased to hiccups. A small fist reached for the light, catching the blanket's edge. My throat tightened. "Yours?" "She's mine," she said, then quieter. "Not his. She's loved." That wasn't quite an answer, and I let it rest. "You said Stonehaven," I said. "You hear specifics?" "Today. Fuel, and something they don't say out loud." Her eyes flicked to the empty cabin window. "If he's already tied to it, he's not sleeping where you can find him." "You came to warn him or us?" "Both." She held my gaze. "Tell Beau to keep his gates locked. The next fire won't wait for nightfall." She started to close the door, then paused. "You can't keep everybody safe, Ruth, but you can tell the truth faster. Sometimes that's the only thing that buys you time. Sarah, if he shows up He already did, she said, plain not bitter. Then, softer, don't stand in front of what you can't put out. The sedan rattled down the lane, gravel popping under the tires. The sunflower blanket glowed once in the back window, then was gone. I stood there until the mist lifted and the ridge drew its first breath of morning. From Beau's kitchen, coffee steam curled against the glass. Sarah's warning clung to the air. Trucks. Today, both. At the bottom of the steps I paused, looking back at the empty cabin. Lord, I said into the cold, if there's anything left in him worth saving, you'll have to be the one to find it. I let the screen door click shut. The house smelled like coffee and the last of the storm. Beau turned at the sound of my boots. Everything all right? Not yet, I said, brushing rain from my sleeve. Sarah Whitmore was looking for coal. She said trucks are moving today. Fuel and something worse. Told me to tell you to keep the gates locked. Beau's jaw ticked. Then she knows more than most. He reached for his hat, the weight of decision already settling on his shoulders. You still down for church? I nodded. I am if you are. By the time we hit Main Street, the bell was already ringing. The white clapboard steeple rose against the pale sky, sunlight glinting off the cross. Cold air pushed through the open doors. The vestibule smelled like wool coats and coffee. Hymns drifted through the sanctuary, weaving around the creak of pews and the old radiator's hum. Naomi found me first, hands firm on my arms, eyes sharp with worry. Ruth Harper, she whispered. You had me near sick when you didn't come home. I'm fine, I murmured, though my face said otherwise. Her gaze slid past me to Beau, standing steady in the doorway, hat in hand. Naomi's mouth pressed thin, but her voice softened. We'll talk later. Her thumb rubbed the edge of her wedding band, her nervous tell when fear was close. Kenzie slipped beside me and pressed a folded handkerchief into my palm. Don't look like that, she muttered. Whole town's already buzzing. Might as well give 'em something worth buzzing about. I managed a small smile. Her hand squeezed mine once, firm, before the preacher's voice rose. Halfway through the sermon, the back door creaked. Sheriff Avery stepped in, coat collar up, face bruised deep purple along the jaw, one eye half shut. The sight rippled through the congregation like a cold wind. No one had to ask who'd done it. They already knew. Mrs. Ames hissed, Cole Lawson's a devil loose. Deacon Miller's wife whispered back, and yet the Lawsons still fill a pew. Kenzie bristled. Says they've got more grit than the rest of you put together. The hymn rose, shaky but loud, like the sound alone could drown out what was coming. Beau's hand tightened around his Bible. When the preacher bowed his head, Beau did too. Naomi's fingers brushed mine. He is near to the brokenhearted, she whispered. Something in me loosened. I bowed my head. The prayer didn't scrape this time. It settled. A prayer not just his anymore. Mine. Outside, the air bit sharp. Avery waited on the front steps, hat off, one arm around his ribs, the other gripping a coffee he couldn't quite lift. Beau reached him first. You shouldn't be out. You look like hell. Avery gave a breath of a laugh. Takes more than a Lawson to keep me down. His voice was gravel, every breath costing him. What have you found? Beau didn't hesitate. Same schedule, same drop, midnight. The sheriff's jaw tightened. Then you also know I'm calling it off. Beau stiffened. What? Avery winced as his ribs caught. Half my men are too scared to show, and the other half don't have the stomach for a bloodbath. I don't have the numbers, Lawson. I'm not sending good men to die on a gamble. Beau's voice hardened. You think letting them walk free is safer? I think staying alive to fight another day is, Avery said, breathing through the pain. Cole warned me last night, told me to quit digging. He meant it. I stepped forward. He's bluffing. You know that. Avery's eyes met mine, weary but sure. You didn't see the look in his eyes when he said it. He's not bluffing anymore. Beau's jaw flexed. fire rising under his calm. We already set the bait, Sheriff. They'll move with or without you. Then let them, Avery rasped.
You can't win this head on, Lawson. Walk away before it's too late.
Beau's voice dropped to steel. Too late was the night Daniel died. Avery exhaled, shoulders sagging. I can't stop you, but I can't save you either.
Wouldn't ask you to, Beau said.
The sheriff's gaze softened, almost pitying. You're a damn fool, Lawson, but maybe the kind this town still needs. Don't make me haul your body off that ridge come morning. Beau tipped his hat, final and quiet. If dawn comes, Sheriff, we'll still be standing. He turned for the truck. I lingered a heartbeat longer. The bell's echo drifted over the snow, low and certain. He won't stop, I said softly. Avery's eyes were tired, resigned. No, he said, and that's what scares me. You did your part, I said. We'll handle the rest. Avery's frown deepened. Beau, don't make me clean up after you. But Beau was already walking, his hand catching mine as he passed. We don't wait on law, Ruth. Not for this. We reached the bottom of the steps, gravel crunching beneath our boots. His jaw was set, that quiet fury steady and sure. He stopped beside the truck, eyes cutting toward the trees near the lot's edge. A black pickup sat half in shadow, a faint red ember glowing inside. Beau's hand tightened around mine. Stay here. Beau, I mean it. He stepped off the gravel and into the cold. Beau crossed the lot and swung before a word left his mouth. The crack of the punch split the quiet like thunder. Cole staggered back, catching himself on the side mirror. Blood spilled from his lip, breath hissing through his teeth. You killed him, Beau said, voice raw. Cole's jaw flexed. One hand braced on the truck. You think I don't live with that? Beau shoved him again, harder.
You don't get to live with it. You burned down your own blood and called it business.
Cole swiped at the blood, eyes dark. It wasn't supposed to end like that. But it did. Beau's voice shook, low and dangerous. And now it ends tonight. Cole straightened, jaw set. You don't know what kind of fire you're walking into. If you did, you'd run the other way. I've already walked through one, Beau said, and I'm still standing. For a moment, neither of them moved. Breath smoked between them, thin and bitter in the cold. Cole's voice dropped, almost pleading.
You keep pushing, Beau. They'll come for you next.
For her. You can't protect what's already burnin'. Beau's glare didn't waver.
Then I'll burn with it before I let you light another match.
Gee. Cole flinched, guilt flickering through before it hardened again. You can't stop what's coming. Beau's tone cut sharp. Watch me. They stared at each other a long beat, two men bound by blood and ash. Finally, Cole looked away, breath ragged. Don't come near the ridge tonight, he muttered. That's not a threat. It's mercy. Beau didn't move. You've had enough mercy. Cole climbed into the truck and slammed the door. The engine roared to life, tires spitting gravel as he tore down the road. The red taillights blurred into the mist until they were nothing but a smear of color against the dark. Beau stayed there a long moment, shoulders tight, blood drying on his hand. His breath shook once, then steadied. I stepped from the shadows, heart hammering. Beau, I whispered. He didn't look at me right away. When he finally did, his eyes were raw, grief and fury tangled together. I heard, I said quietly. He nodded once, slow. Then you know? I swallowed hard. I know he's gone, Beau. Whatever brother you were trying to save, he's gone. Beau's jaw flexed, the muscle ticking in his cheek. Yeah, he said hoarsely. Guess I just needed to see it for myself. The wind carried the faint hum of the church bell across the square, low and distant. Beau wiped his knuckles against his jeans, eyes still on the empty road. It ends tonight. Whatever he's planning, wherever he's running, I'm gonna stop it. I stepped closer, laying a hand over his. Then you won't do it alone. He didn't argue, just exhaled slow, defeated, steady, resolved. Then he turned, heading for the truck. By the time I reached him, the engine from Cole's pickup had already faded into the dark. The air smelled like wet gravel and smoke. Bo rested a hand on the hood, jaw still tight. He's trapped, Ruth. Whatever this is, it's bigger than him. Then we stop it before it buries him, I said. He looked at me then, the hard edge in his eyes softening just enough. You sure about this? I am if you are. Bo gave a small nod, then opened the truck door.
Then we'd better move fast.
Before the night does. The door shut. The engine turned over low and steady. We pulled away from the church, tail lights sweeping through the mist like two small, stubborn fires refusing to go out. After church, the house was too quiet for peace. The kettle gave one sharp, lonely whistle before Bo killed the flame. We ate standing, cold chicken, bread, silence. Every sound felt too loud. Even the clock ticked like it knew what time it was counting down to. Bo set his plate aside, both hands braced on the counter. They'll be moving tonight, he said. Fuel and arsenic. Same words I heard last night. I looked up. The sheriff said it was too risky. Bo's jaw tightened. Avery's half broke and scared. He called off the trap. Says he's short on men, too banged up to lead it himself.
But if Cole's running fuel, we don't get another chance.
He turned to the window, watching the ridge where the cold light sat thin as pewter. Old depot off Highway 19, past the quarry. 4 tanks, a loading yard, busted chain link along the south side. That's where we park. No lights, no noise. My heartbeat thudded in the hush. You've been there? Years back. Dad hauled diesel before they shut it down. His eyes found mine, steady in the winter gray. We catch him in the act. Record what we can, hold him till Avery shows. And if Avery doesn't show?
Bo didn't blink.
Then we end it before he burns another life to the ground. Outside, thunder rolled somewhere far off, more like metal shifting in a cold sky than storm. Bo stepped out onto the porch to make his first call. His breath ghosted through the screen. Yeah. Old depot. Midnight. No, the sheriff's out. Good man. When he came back in, his face was set but steadier. Jace is in. Who else? I asked. No one else, Bo said. Fewer we bring, the better. I nodded. Then that makes 3. And 4, Bo muttered. Kenzie'll show up whether I call her or not. A truck rumbled up the drive. Cold air pressed in as the screen door creaked open without a knock. Hope you saved me a spot. Kenzie stood there, winter-flushed, hair wild from the north wind, a shotgun slung where most women carry a purse. She smelled like gun oil and peppermint. Bo frowned. I didn't call you. Didn't need to. Naomi's face at church said plenty. Her gaze flicked to me. So what's the plan? The depot, I said. Tonight. Cole's moving fuel. One guess, she said. I'll take Westgate. Channel 3, Bo said, resigned. Already charged, she grinned. Try not to do anything stupid till I get there. The light outside had that thin, winter gold that comes before weather turns. Bo checked his phone once more. One more call. He dialed Mara. Once, twice, voicemail, again, nothing. She should have picked up, he muttered. She's with him, I said softly. His thumb hovered over the screen, then stilled. Then she made her choice. The wind rattled the porch chain. The old swing whispered against its hook. We stood in the waiting. Meet here before sundown, Bo said at last. Kenzie nodded and slipped back into the cold. By dusk, the yard had gone still. Engines cooled, radios quieted. Bo loaded gear into the truck while I double-checked the flashlights. The sky was bruised purple at the edges when headlights swept the drive. Naomi's sedan crunched to a stop by the porch. She climbed out, coat pulled tight, worry already written across her face. "I saw your faces at church," she said.
"Didn't like the look of it. Figured you could use extra prayer."
Bo wiped his hands on a rag, meeting her eyes. "You shouldn't have come out in this weather." She gave him a look that could stop cattle. "You're fixin' to walk into something worse than weather, aren't you?" No one answered. We didn't need to. Naomi sighed, the sound soft but steady. "Then I'll do what I came to do." By the time Kenzie and Jace rolled back up, the sky had fallen full dark. We gathered in a half circle by the porch steps, breath white in the chill. Naomi stepped forward, Bible in both hands. Her voice rose through the brittle air, sure and calm as any sermon. "Lord, hedge them in on every side.
Let their courage be clean and their aim true.
Blind those who mean them harm, and steady the hands that stand for good. If fire comes, walk before them. If fear comes, stand between them. Bring them home when the night's work is done." Thunder, or engines, rolled far off along the valley. Hard to tell the difference anymore. Bo lifted his head. We followed. For a long breath, no one moved. Then the trucks turned over, headlights cutting the mist. Naomi pressed a hand to her heart, eyes glistening. "Go on," she said softly. "I'll be praying till you're back." She turned for her car, taillights fading down the drive, while ours climbed the ridge the other way, into the dark. By the time night reached us, the ridge was breathing thunder. We drove without headlights, phone set to record, tiny red dots pulsing steady in the dark. The old fuel depot rose out of the weeds like a rusted skeleton, the air sharp with diesel and cold rain. Bo eased off the gas. "We hold here," he murmured. Jace's truck followed close behind, Kenzie riding shotgun. They idled farther north, half hidden in the trees that backed the loading yard. The radio clicked once, our silent amen. Beyond the chain link, men in dark jackets rolled barrels toward flatbeds. Their voices carried in the damp. The oxide cymbals on the drums gleamed, faint in the lamplight. Cole's voice rose above the noise, sharp, commanding, weary. "Fuel first, arsenic last. Keep the manifest clean. We roll by midnight." Bo leaned forward. "That's him." Another voice answered, smooth and cold, drifting from the cab of a dark truck near the bay.
"Clock's ticking. No mistakes."
Bo stiffened. "Mo?" Cole didn't look toward the voice. "You'll get your load." From here, through the sleet, I could see a woman moving beside the barrels. Hood up. Gloved hands gripping a dolly as she pushed one drum toward Mo's truck. Her coat was too clean for the job, her movements too careful. Then the wind lifted her hood. "Mara," I breathed. Bo's knuckles went white around the rifle.
"No."
Before I could say more, a shout rang from the yard. "Hey, movement at the fence!" The floodlight snapped on, blinding. Bo threw his door open, rifle raised. They saw us. The first shot hit the mirror. The second shattered the passenger window.
"Down," he barked, firing back.
The kick caught his ribs, sent him stumbling into the mud. "Bo!" "Stay in the cab." But I was already moving. Sleet cut at my face as I crawled out, fingers closing around his rifle, where it lay half buried. A shadow rose behind the drums, aimed, ready. My breath hitched.
"If you're here, Lord, steady me."
The gun bucked against my shoulder. The man dropped, his weapon clattering across the concrete. Bo looked up through the rain, stunned. "You did good," he rasped. "Real good." More shouts, more gunfire. Kenzie's voice broke over the radio, sharp, urgent. "Two coming from the west." Jace's rifle cracked from the tree line, cutting one down clean. Then a bigger shadow loomed near the bay. One of Mo's men, broad shoulders, blackthorn patch dark with rain, leveled his gun at us.
"End of the line, Lawsons. Orders say you don't walk out."
Bo tried to lift his rifle, but the chamber clicked empty. The man grinned. "Guess that's it, then."
"Stop."
Cole Cole stepped from the light, soaked and shaking, gun in hand. That's enough. The enforcer didn't lower his weapon. You don't give orders anymore. Mo does. Cole's voice cut like gravel. I said stop. Not my call. He started to pull the trigger, and Cole moved first. The shot cracked the air. Cole spun, hit square in the shoulder, and dropped into the mud. His gun slid away. Cole! I shouted. Bo lunged toward him, but the yard erupted again. Sirens, shouting. Red and blue lights spilling across the rain. Mo's truck roared to life. Get in! Mo's voice barked from the cab. Mara froze by the tailgate, eyes wide, one hand gripping the edge of a barrel. For a second, just one, she looked straight at me. Mara, don't! I yelled. She hesitated, then climbed into the cab. The truck peeled away, fishtailing through mud and fog until it vanished into the dark. Bo dropped to his knees beside Cole. Why'd you do it? Cole's breath came ragged. Because I lit one fire too many. Sheriff Avery's cruiser screeched to a stop, deputies pouring out with guns drawn.
Drop it! Hands where I can see 'em!
The Blackthorn men who could still move threw down their weapons. Avery limped forward, face bruised, eyes cold.
Where's Mo?
Bo didn't look up. Gone. Took Mara with him. The sheriff's jaw locked. Then this ain't over. Cole groaned, blood pooling beneath him as rain washed it thin. A deputy kicked his rifle aside. Avery's voice cut through the sleep. Get a medic on him before he bleeds out. Cole's head turned slightly, eyes unfocused. You can't stop it, he rasped. Avery crouched just close enough for his words to land. We'll see about that. The medics worked fast. Bandages pressed tight, radios crackling. Cole didn't fight them. He'd taken the bullet meant for Bo. No hesitation, no words. Why? The question burned through the cold, harder than the sirens. Guilt? Remorse? Or was that the last thing he knew how to do? Hurt and heal in the same breath. They lifted him onto the stretcher. Rain hissed on the ambulance roof, washing blood and gunpowder into the mud until it all looked the same. Avery straightened, jaw hard. Once he's stable, he's county's problem. Straight to lockup. Bo watched the taillights fade, shoulders sagging. He'll live, he said quietly, but I don't know if that's mercy or punishment. The red lights bled through the sleep until they disappeared down the road. We rolled up to Lawson Ranch caked in mud, the sky the color of a bruise. The storm had spent itself. Bo drove one-handed, the other tight against his ribs. Neither of us spoke. In the yard, Jace's truck pulled in, Kenzie beside him. They climbed out into the quiet. No gunfire, no shouting, just sleet dripping from the porch eaves. Jace wiped a streak of blood from his cheek. You get it all? I held up my phone. Every word. He exhaled. Then that's justice enough to start. Kenzie pushed damp hair off her forehead. Avery's got Cole. He won't be walking out for a while. Bo nodded once. Jaw tight, rain still dripping from the brim of his hat. His shirt was torn where the bullet had grazed him, blood gone dark at the seams. The look in his eyes wasn't relief. It was something heavier. He saved me, Bo said. Kenzie nodded softly. Then, you're still here because of him. She blew out a breath and tried for a smile that didn't quite hold. I could use about 10 hours of sleep and Naomi's strongest brew. Bo didn't answer. He just kept breathing, like that alone was proof enough he was still here. Go on, Bo said quietly. You've done enough. Kenzie hesitated. You sure? I nodded. We're sure. Jace and Kenzie drifted off into the dark, leaving the night quiet but not empty. Bo and I stood side by side on the porch, watching the mist settle back over the ridge. His hand found mine, mud, cold, blood between us. You think it's done? I asked. Bo's jaw flexed. For tonight. We stood there in the gray light, both bleeding, both breathing. Still here. Sometimes that's enough. The house was quiet in that way only aftermath can be. No sirens, no voices, just the low hum of the refrigerator and the slow, deliberate tick of the clock over the stove. The air still held the bite of cold metal and spent fuel, a faint tang of smoke threading under it. Frost ghosted the windows, and the smell of gun oil lingered faint in the seams of Beau's jacket slung over the chair.
His rifle leaned forgotten by the door.
He hadn't said a word since we came in from the ridge. Neither had I. The silence wasn't empty. It was full. Every unsaid thing between us hung there, sharp and alive. Beau stayed at the counter, palms flat against it, shoulders tight. The fabric at his ribs had gone dark again where the bandage bled through. His breath came slow and careful, like he was fighting to hold himself steady. I crossed the few steps between us without meaning to, drawn more than moving. When I stopped beside him, he lifted his head. The look in his eyes, tired, raw, unguarded, hit harder than anything that came before it. Then his hand found the small of my back, not tentative, steady, possessive, like he'd made his choice. And it was me. Heat spread through me, grounding and fragile all at once. A nervous laugh caught in my throat. You keep looking at me like that, Beau, and I don't know if I can pretend it doesn't mean something. His gaze swept slow over me, deliberate, memorizing. His jaw flexed once before his answer came, low and rough.
Good, 'cause I ain't pretending either.
He stepped in close. So close the cold air between us disappeared. His hands found my waist, slow and sure anchoring me. For a heartbeat he just looked at me, eyes searching, burning, memorizing every inch like he'd waited his whole life for this one moment. Then, without a word, he lifted his hand to the back of my neck. His thumb traced the line of my jaw, and he pulled me in. The kiss wasn't gentle. It was deep, steady, and certain, built on everything we'd been too afraid to say. Months of grief, fear, and longing broke open all at once. But his hand stayed sure, his touch grounding me when the rest of the world felt like ash. When he finally drew back, our foreheads stayed pressed together. Breath mingled in the cold. His voice came low, roughened by emotion. "Whatever comes," he murmured, "we'll face it together." "Together?" I whispered. He leaned back only enough to reach for the cord around his neck, pulling free a worn gold band. It caught the faint firelight, edges dulled from years of wear. "This was Clara's," he said quietly. "Ain't taken it off since the day I put it there." He turned it once between his fingers. It wasn't about holding on. It wasn't even about grief, not after a while. I just didn't ever want to forget. Didn't want to wake up one day and not feel the weight of what I had and what I lost. His gaze drifted toward the frost-lined window, voice rougher now. Some days it's been a chain. Other days the only thing holding me together. But either way, I kept it. 'Cause if I let it go, it'd be like saying they never mattered. And I couldn't live with that. His eyes lifted to mine, steady, stripped bare. But you make me believe it's time to carry it different. Not as a shackle, as a reminder of what I don't ever want to waste again. The word split something in me, because I'd been carrying Daniel the same way. Clinging so tight to the ache, afraid loosening my grip would mean letting him slip away for good. I hadn't called it a chain, but that's what it was. Every time I starved myself at Naomi's table, every time I turned from Beau's hand reaching for mine. I thought I was keeping Daniel alive, but all I was doing was binding myself to ashes. My palm lifted, trembling, and pressed flat to Beau's chest, right over the steady thud of his heart. "I've been doing the same thing," I whispered, holding so tight to the pain, thinking it proved how much he mattered.
But maybe it's not about clinging to what we lost.
Maybe it's about not missing what's right in front of us now. Maybe that's what mercy looks like. Hands open, not fists closed around ashes. Beau's breath caught. His eyes burned into mine. "Stay, Ruth." The words came low. Certain.
Not just until this fight is done.
Stay because you want to. Because I'll spend the rest of my life taking care of you. If you'll let me. Tears slipped hot down my cheeks. And when he kissed me again, it wasn't desperation. It was quiet. Certain. The kind of kiss that felt like forever. When we finally stepped out onto the porch, dawn brushed silver across the horizon. The air was sharp enough to bite, our breath fogging in front of us. Ice clung to the railings where sleet had fallen overnight. For the first time in a long while, peace didn't feel borrowed. It felt earned. Beau's hand found mine, rough thumb tracing once across my knuckles. They can circle all they want, he said, voice low and iron.
But they won't take you. Not while I'm standing.
The vow settled between us like armor. The porch light flickered against the frost-glazed window pane, catching on the matchbook still lying in the dish by the door. Stonehaven ammo, a reminder, a warning. The flame might have dimmed, but it hadn't died. Cole was caged now, wounded and locked behind bars. But the men who'd whispered orders at Stonehaven, the ones who pulled his strings, hadn't vanished with him. And somewhere out past the ridge, a single headlight cut through the dark. Too far to name, close enough to know. Beau stood at the bottom of the porch steps, hat in hand. The glow from Naomi's porch light painted soft gold across his face. Well, he said quietly, voice rough from strain, I better get you home. I don't want to go yet. Naomi'll be waitin', he said gently. You know she won't rest till she sees you on that porch. He tipped his hat and opened the truck door. Come on. The ride through Stonehaven was quiet, the kind that settles after chaos. Streetlights shimmered on black ice. Naomi's small white house came into view, its porch light burning steady, like a prayer that refused to go out. You're safe now, Beau said quietly. That's what matters. Will you? Yeah, he said simply. I'll be here tomorrow. That was enough. Naomi opened the door before I could knock. Thank you, Lord, she whispered, pulling me close. Beau stood by the truck, hat pressed to his chest. Yes, ma'am, he said. Wouldn't be anywhere else. Inside the house felt still, warm, held. Naomi rocked me slow when the tears came. When they eased, she cut my cheek. Go on to bed, honey. Let the Lord keep watch tonight. Later in the quiet, I whispered into the dark. I'm sorry, Lord, for thinking you'd left me. Thank you for staying anyway. The light glowed steady through the cold. For the first time in months, sleep came easy. And for the first time in longer, I wanted to wake to tomorrow. Weeks passed before the quiet started to sound like peace again. Not easy, just steady. At Naomi's little house, mornings found their rhythm, coffee, scripture, the soft scrape of her Bible opening while pale light fought its way through frosted glass. She moved slower these days, but her hands didn't shake when she prayed anymore. Up before the rooster again, she said, pouring 2 mugs. Old habits die hard. I took one and kissed her cheek. Don't wait on me for supper. Outside, the cold bit clean. Frost rimmed the fence rails and clung to the brittle grass like lace. By the time I reached Lawson Ranch, the winter sun was lifting over the ridge, turning the world silver and gold all at once. Beau was already on the porch, 2 mugs waiting, Bible open on his knee. Coffee's hot, he said, sliding one my way. I sat beside him, pulling my coat tighter. He thumbed to a passage, reading low, voice roughened by the chill. To give them beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, the garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Isaiah 61, verse 3. He looked up. Guess the Lord's still in the rebuilding business. I smiled at the thin winter sun. Seems like he's got his hands full. We drank in that quiet, the kind that didn't need filling. The porch boards creaked. A hawk cried over the ridge, and for the first time in months, the day didn't feel borrowed. By dusk, the chores were done and the light went soft over the pasture. Our breath fogged in the cooling air. I leaned against the fence, brushing dirt from my gloves. Beyond the far line of trees, Cole's old house sat half swallowed by bare pecans. Quiet now, but still shaped by everything that had gone wrong there. Bo followed my gaze. You're thinking about him. I am. He waited. I already know what he did, I said slowly. But he said something that night, before the sheriff came. Said it wasn't about land, and I can't stop thinking about it. Bo frowned. Sounds like another lie meant to haunt you. Maybe, but I need to hear it from him. I need to know why he struck the match. Bo's jaw tightened. You don't owe him that. It's not about owing, it's about putting it down. I met his eyes. I need the truth. He studied me a long moment, then nodded. I'll drive you to county. Wait outside. Thank you. He touched the brim of his hat. You walk in steady, Ruth, and you walk out steady. I will. The road to county was quiet. Miles of frost-hardened earth and twilight sky. Bo drove with both hands on the wheel, jaw tight, eyes fixed ahead. I mouthed silent words. Lord, steady me. The courthouse lights rose out of the valley like a cold dawn. Bo pulled into the gravel lot and killed the engine. You sure? He asked. I have to be. I'll be right here. The air bit my lungs as I crossed the lot. The county jail sat squat and gray behind the courthouse. The deputy didn't ask questions, just nodded and led me down a hall that smelled like metal and old fear. Cole sat at a metal table, cuffs gleaming under harsh light. He looked older, smaller, burned out in places a person shouldn't be burned. He forced a smile. Didn't figure you'd come. I saw Sarah, I said softly. She still believed you could change. Something flickered through him. Grief, shame, maybe both. She always believed more than I deserved, he muttered. His thumb traced the edge of the cuff. I went by the hospital, he said. Didn't go in. Just stood behind the glass, saw the flowers, the jacket. Could tell someone had been there. I figured it was you. His breath trembled. I didn't have the right to speak to him, not after what I'd been mixed up in. But I had to see he was still breathing. Had to know I hadn't taken both of you out. He scrubbed a hand across his face. Someone came down the hall and I panicked. Took off before anyone saw me, but I prayed anyway. First prayer I've said in years. I sat across from him. Then tell me the truth, Cole. Why Daniel? The question landed heavy. It didn't start with Daniel, he said finally. It started when Mama got sick. He didn't give details, just enough. I was 18. Ranch was sinking, debt, drought, bills. Blackthorn offered money. I took it. Once you take their help, you don't get clean again. His voice cracked. Years later, Daniel walked into the same trouble. Ranch falling apart, loans behind. He was drowning Ruth. My throat tightened. He paid $10,000, Cole whispered, to burn the barn for the insurance payout. My heart dropped. He said nobody would be inside. Said it'd be clean. Said it'd save Naomi. He swallowed hard. They sent me. Because I already owed. Because they owned my choices. Tears blurred my vision. You were never supposed to be in there, he said. I didn't see you go back in to put your horse up. But Daniel did. He ran in after you. His voice broke. I thought Bo would get you both out. He always does. And I ran. The roof fell. Silence pressed in. They used it after that, he whispered. Fuel, guns, arsenic. Every job, they reminded me. His voice dropped. And the threats? That wasn't me. That was men above Blackthorn. Men who don't leave loose ends. A chill swept through me. They wanted Daniel quiet, Cole said. And if you keep digging, they'll come for you too. Why tell me now? I asked. Because I'm done protecting them, he said. And because Bo deserved the brother he prayed for, even if it's too late. The deputy appeared. The cold hit harder outside. Bo straightened when he saw me. You all right? Just take me home. We drove in silence, necessary silence. When the ranch lights came into view, Bo cut the engine. What did he say? I told him. Bo closed his eyes. All this time, I thought he was just rotten, but he was drowning too. He didn't mean to kill him, I whispered. But he did. You did right, Bo said. Naomi deserves to know. Naomi waited on the porch, Bible clutched like armor. I told her everything. My boy, she whispered.
He died trying to save us.
Maybe the Lord kept us from knowing, I said.
Till we could forgive.
The church was quiet, honest. I sat alone, and for the first time I didn't brace myself. The tears came slow. Lord, I whispered, I blamed you for everything. The quiet stayed, but Daniel chose a way that wasn't yours, I said. And I held that against you. I forgive him. And I'm letting go of the anger I held against you, too. Warmth settled. I trust you again. When I stood, my heart felt light. Not healed all at once, but mending, steady, whole. Bo's porch light glowed through the trees. Not rescue, not obligation. Home. He opened the door before I knocked. I'm whole, I said softly. He stepped aside. Come on in. It's cold. For the first time since the fire, stepping inside didn't feel like walking away from the past. It felt like walking toward a future, toward him. The next day settled over Lawson Ranch, easy as frost. Jace's truck sat by the south fence, tailgate down. Lexi perched on it with a clipboard and a thermos steaming against the cold. Their breath fogged white in the morning air. You're late, Jace called, grinning. You're early, I shot back, grabbing my gloves. Where's Bo? Lexi tipped her chin toward the ridge. Been gone since sunup. Took a gallon of red paint and wouldn't say why. Said he'd be back before dark. Jace smirked. Probably building something he doesn't want us nosing into. Wouldn't be the first time, I said, though curiosity itched in the back of my mind. Lexi flipped the page on her clipboard. Oh, did you hear about Mara? No, I said slowly. What about her? Word is they let her out, Jace said. Blackthorn boys offered her a spot running stock over their way. Guess she took it. The name tightened the air between us. I kept my eyes on the feed ledger. Good for her, I said finally, though my stomach said otherwise. Lexi shrugged. Maybe. Or maybe it's just the same fire burning in a new pasture. Folks say she's heading north. Pulled some strings through somebody higher than Blackthorn. Nobody knows who. The cold bit sharper at that, like the wind itself didn't trust the quiet. We worked after that in the kind of silence that leaves room for wonder in. The sky stayed pale all day, and every sound carried, the creak of the gate, the soft clatter of feed buckets, the distant echo of hammering somewhere up the ridge. By the time the sun sank low, Bo's truck finally rolled up the drive. He climbed out, shirt streaked with red, dust on his boots, grin too easy to trust. You look like you wrestled a paint can, I said. Something like that, he said, setting his hat on the hood. You busy tomorrow night? Depends, I said, crossing my arms, on whether I need to bring work gloves. No gloves, he said. Just be ready by 6. I'll pick you up at Naomi's. You planning another surprise? His eyes glinted in the fading light. You'll see. I started to ask more, but he was already walking toward the barn, humming low, red paint catching the sunset like a secret. And even without knowing why, I felt the stir of it, something mended, something waiting. In the days after the weeks, the world felt different, not louder, just clearer, like the Lord had scraped the soot off everything I thought I'd lost. Bo and I worked side by side without needing words. For once, we weren't chasing ghosts. Naomi had been acting strange all afternoon. Every time I passed through the kitchen, she was either stirring something that didn't need stirring or watching the clock like it owed her an apology. The house smelled like cinnamon and nerves. What's gotten into you? I asked finally, setting my mug in the sink. She smiled too quickly. Nothing at all. Just feels like a good night for answers. Before I could ask what that meant, tires crunched over the gravel drive. Beau's truck rolled to a stop, headlights sweeping across the porch. I caught a glimpse of him through the window. Dark coat, hat low, that half smile that could still steal the air right out of my lungs. Naomi brushed invisible flour from her hands. "Well," she said softly, "guess that's your cue." I hesitated. "Do I look all right?" Her smile turned real then, warm and full of knowing. "You look like answered prayer, Ruth." When I stepped onto the porch, Beau was waiting, hands in his pockets, breath ghosting in the cold. The sight of him hit something deep and familiar. "Evenin'," he said, voice low and steady. "Evenin'," I returned, trying to sound casual, but my pulse had other ideas. He offered his arm. "Come with me." "Where are we going?" His mouth curved. "You'll see." The ride wound through quiet roads, silvered with frost. The moon hung low, turning the fields pale and still. We didn't talk much. We didn't have to. The kind of silence between us had learned how to breathe on its own. When the truck finally slowed, my chest tightened. I knew this turn. I knew this land. "Beau." "Trust me," he said softly. He parked near the rise and cut the engine. For a heartbeat, the world was nothing but stars and wind. Then I saw it. The Harper barn stood whole again, red against the winter dark, lanterns strung from the beams, new boards gleaming beside the old. Frost lay soft at its base like forgiveness. I couldn't move. "Beau," I whispered, "what did you—" He rounded the truck and opened my door, paint still smudged along his forearm. "Had some help. The boys owed me a few favors." He took my hand and led me closer. "Figured if you could stop staring at ashes, I could too." The big doors swung open with a creak, and light spilled out warm and golden. Inside, garlands of pine hung from the rafters. The scent of hay and cedar filled the air. From the back stall came a quiet wicker. A young chestnut mare stepped forward, blaze bright down her nose. "She's yours," Beau said. I reached out, palm trembling. The mare pressed her muzzle into my hand like she'd been waiting all along. "She's beautiful." He nodded. "So's the woman she belongs to." Tears pricked hot behind my eyes. "You rebuilt everything I thought I lost." Beau smiled then, small and unguarded. "Maybe the Lord just needed someone stubborn enough to hold a hammer." When I looked back at him, the words in my chest tumbled out in a rush. "You did this for me?" "For us," he said simply. He reached into his coat pocket and drew out a folded square of blue cloth. Inside, a ring caught the lamplight, plain, gold, worn smooth with time. Beau took a step closer, the lantern glow cutting gold along his jaw. "Ruth Harper," he said quietly, "you fought beside me and prayed with me, and stood when the whole world tried to knock you down. You've made my heart remember how to hope." His voice dropped to barely a whisper. "I know Daniel was your first love. I'm not asking to replace him. I'm just asking to be your last." For a moment, I couldn't breathe. The barn blurred at the edges, the whole world narrowing to the man in front of me and the question I'd been waiting to hear without knowing it. "Will you be my wife?" "Yes," I said, my voice shaking but sure. Tears spilled hot down my cheeks. "Beau Lawson, yes. 1,000 times yes." His shoulders eased, a long-held weight dropping away. He slipped the ring onto my finger. It fit like it had been waiting too. When he kissed me, it was gentle first, then certain, a prayer made flesh. When we finally pulled apart, he pressed his forehead to mine, both of us breathing hard, both of us smiling through tears. Laughter burst from behind us. "About time!" Kenzie's voice rang out, followed by applause and a chorus of whoops. I turned in shock. The far door swung open wider, and there they all were. Naomi with her dish towel still in hand, Lexi grinning from ear to ear, Jace holding a pie, Deacon wiping his eyes, and even Sheriff Avery in his Sunday jacket. Naomi was already crying.
I told you she'd say yes.
Bo chuckled, his arms still around me. You told everyone, didn't you? Maybe, Naomi said, unabashed. Now quit standing there and come eat before the roast gets cold. Dinner filled the old Harper house like it hadn't in years. Voices, laughter, light, quilts covered the tables, and every plate steamed. Pecan pie, coffee strong enough to stand a spoon, and the kind of joy that comes when a wound finally scars over clean. Lexi raised her cup. To Daniel, she said, and to Ruth, for teaching the rest of us how to stand. The room murmured an amen that felt like a heartbeat. Naomi squeezed my hand under the table. Not ashes anymore, she whispered. The Lord's given beauty back. My chest swelled until it hurt in the right way. I looked at Bo beside me, his hand covering mine, the gold band gleaming warm in the lamplight. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was surviving. I felt like I was home. Later, when the laughter had faded to the porch, Bo caught my hand. Come on, he said softly. The barn still glowed in the distance, lanterns burning low. Inside, the air smelled of pine and paint and promise. He turned toward me, eyes soft and steady. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. He just took my hand and drew me close, his other hand settling at the small of my back. We began to move, slow, quiet, unplanned, to music only we could hear. The world shrank to breath and heartbeat and winter air. His thumb traced circles on my back. My head rested against his chest, right over his heart. I could hear it beating, steady, sure, alive. This, I whispered, feels like peace. He pressed a kiss to the top of my head. Feels like home. I tilted my face up to look at him. I didn't think I'd ever feel this again. What? Safe. My voice broke. Wanted, like I belong somewhere. His eyes glistened. You do, Ruth. Right here. Always. We stayed that way. Two people rebuilt from fire, steady in the light that had finally come. I stopped, pressing my palm flat against his chest. Bo? Yeah? Thank you, I whispered, for loving me enough to let me love him too. His hand covered mine. Daniel made you who you are. I'd be a fool not to honor that. When the others started calling from the porch, Naomi caught my hand as I passed her. Her eyes shone wet in the lamplight. You see it now, don't you? She said softly. What he meant when he said he gives beauty for ashes. I swallowed hard. I used to think that meant he'd give something new, something untouched. Naomi smiled through tears. No, child. He gives back the same ground, just healed. He lets you see what can stand again. I looked down at the ring on my finger, then back at the barn glowing in the distance. I almost gave up, Naomi. There were nights I didn't think I'd survive. She cupped my face in both hands, eyes fierce with love. But you did, baby. You stood in the fire and refused to burn. And look what the Lord built from those ashes. I pulled her into a hug, both of us crying now. I couldn't have done it without you. You didn't have to, she whispered. That's what family's for. I looked toward the barn, red, whole, alive, and felt the truth settle deep. He did, didn't he? She squeezed my fingers. He did, and he's not done yet. Outside frost glimmered on the fields where ashes used to lie. Inside, the world had finally mended. But somewhere beyond the ridge, a wind was rising, carrying the faint scent of smoke. 1 year later. January. Evening light poured cold gold across the Lawson pasture. The land stretched wide and steady before me. Strong fences, cattle grazing, wind rolling easy through winter grass. The air held that sharp winter bite, turning each breath to mist. Frost silvered the fence rails. Somewhere down the hill, a calf bawled soft in the cold. This land had never burned the way ours did, but it carried its own scars. On the little hill out back, 2 graves lay side by side. Clara Stone had borne her name from the start, but the smaller marker beside it had stayed blank, weathered by years of silence. Then one afternoon, I cleared the weeds and laid down fresh winter blooms. Beau followed. He didn't speak at first, just set his palm to the stone, breathing quiet, the chisel waiting in his other hand. When he finally lifted it, carving slow, careful strokes, the name took shape. Grace. Dust rose in the fading light, no longer nameless, no longer forgotten. A daughter claimed at last. Life had softened since then. The cattle held steady, the fences stayed mended. Cole was locked away, his shadow long, but his reach finally broken. And for the first time in years, I breathed without checking over my shoulder. The ranch felt less like a place waiting for a fight, and more like a home. Beau stepped up beside me, his arm curving around my shoulders. His jacket creaked in the cold. The sun grazed the engagement ring on my hand, a quiet promise shining in winter light. I talked to Naomi this morning, he said.
She wants to help with the wedding.
Says she's going to fight anybody who tries to pick the colors but her. I laughed, soft and real. That sounds like her. You sure about keeping it small? He asked. Just family, a few friends. Just us? Beau, I said, leaning into him. All I ever wanted was peace. And you. The rest is details. Something eased in his face. Relief, gratitude, maybe both. His forehead brushed mine. After everything, he murmured, I still can't believe I get to build a life with you. After everything, I echoed. The wind stirred the winter grass, bending it in long waves. Behind us, the house lights flickered warm through the windows. Naomi's prayers had carried us through fire and loss and all the shadows between. We had walked through ashes. We had carried grief. We had chosen each other. And in the quiet glow of evening, with his arm around me, in spring somewhere on the horizon, I knew we hadn't just survived. We had been remade. Beauty for ashes, life from loss, promise out of pain. And miles away, in a county cell thick with silence, another story was still waiting to begin. The jail was quiet at dusk, just the hum of pipes, the flicker of tired lights along the corridor. Cole Lawson sat on the edge of his bunk, elbows on his knees, listening to the steady drip from the radiator. He didn't count days anymore. He counted what was left to make right. The lock buzzed. You've got a visitor, the guard said. Detective Morrison. Brookdale. Cole's mouth hardened. Figures. The door opened. Morrison stepped inside. Coat pressed, boots polished, badge glinting like a threat more than a promise. His eyes were cold as creek ice. A man who looked like paperwork, but operated like a knife. Cole leaned back, chains clinking.
Well, well, if it isn't the famous Mo.
A ghost of a smile curved Morrison's mouth.
Always did admire how you put names to shadows.
What do you want? Cole muttered. You here to gloat? Check if I've broken yet? Just checking on an old investment, Morrison said lightly. Wanted to make sure my favorite Lawson still remembers who he belongs to. Cole's jaw flexed. I'm done with you. Should have been done the night you changed the plan at the Galleria. Morrison tilted his head. Changed, or corrected. You told me to shake him up, Cole snapped. Not spill his blood,
but your boys went straight for the kill.
I needed results, Morrison said evenly. You weren't delivering. You damn near killed Beau. Some men only learn through pain, Morrison replied. And some need reminders. Cole's pulse kicked.
Like that truck on the Ridge Road?
That you too? Morrison didn't blink. You talk too much for a man with no leverage. Cole leaned forward, chains rattling. You think it ends with me sitting in here? Ruth and Beau will dig. They'll find every string you've ever pulled. I'm counting on it, Morrison said softly. A chill crept up Cole's spine. Morrison slid his gloves back on. Play your cards right, Lawson, and maybe I get you out one day. Cole studied him, really studied him. And what's that going to cost me? Morrison smiled, thin, shark-like. Same thing it always has, loyalty. He rapped twice on the door. The lock buzzed open. Cole watched him leave, the echo of boots fading down the hall. Until all that remained was the hum of fluorescent lights and the slow burn of something waking up inside him. He stared at the frost-rimmed window, breath fogging the glass. It ain't done yet, he murmured. This time it wasn't guilt speaking, it was resolve.